All right, fine. Oh shit! I forgot to ask you. How do you want to be addressed as?
Oh, you can call me Frankie. I mean, that's, Franky Slawson, or you can call me Sean, Sean Edward. It don't really matter. Sean Edwards Slawson is my real name.
Okay.
Frankie's been my nickname for over 30 years, so it
Okay.
don't
If you notice
matter.
Frankie, I'll use that then.
Okay, that's
All
that's
right.
fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. I don't care.
Okay. All right. We'll start over.
Yeah.
Five, four, three, two, one. Hello there, rebels. We are here in the radio room of the Sherpa Chalet. My guest today is coming to us from the grand state of Minnesota, the land of many lakes. His name is Franky Slawson. He is the host and creator of Renegade Radio, and hopefully you are listening to that right now. But maybe you're listening to this podcast right now, so you can get to hear me speak to him and get to know him a little bit. Franky, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me there, Jim. I appreciate the invite.
Now, you are from the great state of Minnesota. Tell me about
Yes.
the coldest winter that you've ever had there.
Oh, geez. I mean, I've been alive for 41 years here, Jim. So I mean, there's been a few of them.
I always hear about these brutal winters in Minnesota and Wisconsin where it's like, well, everything froze, even
Yeah.
people.
Well, it depends on which part of the state, because sometimes it can happen in northern Minnesota, sometimes it happens in southern Minnesota, sometimes the whole state is just covered. But I'm in northern Minnesota, so I'm like about 10 to 20 miles. Well, probably about 20 to 30 miles off from the Canadian border of where I live. But yeah, I mean, we've had cold winters. We've had winters that didn't last that long. This year, I don't know. I mean, it should be here right now. We actually are currently getting a little bit of a snowstorm, but we don't know if it's going to last or not. It's a surprise nowadays. So
It's funny when like I talk to people who like live in like snowy states where like I could tell them like, oh, we got a foot and a half of snow, and they're just like, yeah, that's nothing.
yeah, that's right. It's funny to know that places like Arizona and Hawaii that normally never get snow got some snow.
Yeah,
But before we got ours, so it's kind of funny because that's those places. People go there so they don't have to deal with that stuff.
right. That's true. So, how did you originally get started with radio? That's where you're originally based from. That's kind of like your background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Minnesota has pretty much been the home base, other than 5 years when I lived in South Dakota. I
Okay.
lived in the Black Hills for 5 years, trying to find myself, and eventually I got hired on at a TV job. But as far as radio goes, I mean, I've always been a volunteer, and that started off in 2002, like August of 2002. Uh, because back in the day, the school offered, or the college offered, a class
Mhm.
where you could go, and for 30, 40 years, it was being offered. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun because I've always loved radio. I always wanted to be a part of something that was like the entertainment business and all that. But
Sure.
I didn't know how it was going to go. I mean, you got to think about 22 years ago, it was a different time compared to now. And I think if I would have probably been one of those guys that either would have graduated from the department or would have graduated a lot sooner, maybe I would have had a job, an actual
Mhm.
job, and life would have been a lot different than it turned out to be. But I didn't pass, the course because at that time I was 18 or 19 years old, and I just kind of, didn't understand why I was getting so many classes that had nothing to do with broadcasting.
Right.
Because all I wanted to do was be like the next Wolfman Jack. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about, anything, any other classes that they were offering other than that ones that were required for broadcasting. But I didn't do so well because I didn't take it seriously. I just wanted to have fun all the time and just do radio stuff and everything. So about a year and a half later, they were offering a volunteer program, and I put my name in the hat for that and was able to get my own show and just kind of get a free education, I guess, as you can say, from
Mhm.
what I've learned from when I was there to learning how to do a proper show, how to interview people, how to just be different than just a normal just music show and stuff.
Mhm.
Because I've done hundreds of shows like that where I was just doing music stuff and did themes and whatever. But when I learned how to do interviews later on, it was thanks to the volunteer program.
Okay.
So that kind of established me.
When you were playing music, what kind of music were you playing?
Well, in the beginning, I had no choice but to play the hits, because that's all they allowed us to play. And I even asked, I was like, hey, can't we play something different? Oh, you can play something different if you earned it. If you've done all your homework and then you put in the required hours, after what, I think it was 180 hours required to, then you could do your own show or whatever after. But I never got that far. So I had to wait until the volunteer program started. And then I got to do kind of the way I always wanted to do it, was more deep track based because, let's face it, the top 40 and the hits and listen to the same song over and over again every day. I don't know how people are able to do it. I I like to have a little different variety. When
Sure.
you listen to an album, you should listen to the whole thing, not just because, oh, there's a hit song you like or whatever. It's like, well, there's other songs that are good too. I mean, you should listen to them. So I would do more of a deep track type of show in the begin. In the beginning when I would start doing my own show, and it worked out pretty well. People like that.
I always wondered too, to your point earlier, that like the DJs in like those top 40 stations where they only play like the top 10 songs and you hear them like every 20 minutes, they've got to probably like say, okay, and here's, whomever, and then they just kind of turn off their mic, they put their headphones down, they go outside, they drink some beer or smoke
I'm
a
pretty
cigarette,
sure.
and they're
Yeah,
like, oh, is that over yet?
I'm pretty sure they're if they're listening to what's ever being played over and over again. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I think you're right. They're probably just go out and do other things because it's like it's ridiculous. I don't understand why that's so important nowadays. Why is every classic rock station the same? It used to be where radio was different. Everywhere you listen to the shows, even if they did play the same stuff, the way they did the show was different. The way they entertained you was different. And that's what I try to bring back, the old school style of if I were to host something like that again, that's what I would do. Because I'm an old school DJ. I believe in the old school ways. When you could call and answer, take requests, and then you're like everybody's friend. People look forward to listening to radio.
Right.
No, nobody gives two craps about it.
That is true. It's funny. I mean, I'm a little older than you, and I remember
Sure.
like the glory days of AM radio where you had radio personalities and it wasn't so much formatted. It was like, well, okay, let's play a little rock here, we'll play a little country here, a little R&B. You never knew what you were going to hear next, and it
Because
wasn't these tight
yeah,
formats where you just get bored of it after about 2 hours of listening. And the radio stations then, I think, were probably a lot smarter that they knew to bring in these radio personalities who actually had personalities. They lived up to their job title, and people felt that they were connected to that music and to radio, and that just seemed to fade away, I think, as the years passed, and it's kind of sad.
yeah, and the days of automation and stuff. I live in a small area,
Hmm?
small town, in the northern Minnesota area, and they try to treat the stations like it's a big stations, like most of the stations that are around here, but they're not that big. They're small stations, and I believe they should go back to the way it was back in the day. What if that somebody's willing to be on the air, and fill time and be at the station, doing shows, helping make their station better than it ever was before. What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
Why does automation have to come and kill everything? I
that,
understand why we have automation. I get it. For mostly emergencies. That's
right.
what it was supposed to be for. If a DJ couldn't make it or something, and they could add time during the week or whatever to voice track their shows or whatever. That's what it was supposed to be for. And now people are overdoing it. They're killing it.
Yeah, we
So
we become victims of our own innovation, I guess.
it's sad because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's not just around my area. It's everywhere. And yet we allowed this to happen. We allowed all these people to change everything. And I hate to say a bad word or whatever, but everything's all fucked up. I'm sorry to say.
Okay. So what gave you the idea of Renegade Radio? Tell me a little bit about the genesis of that.
Well, after I had volunteered at the Northland at Pioneer 941 for as long as I have, off and on for almost 20 years, I would say, or almost 20 years anyway, that I volunteered because they would never really give me the real opportunity to work during the day or hire me to actually be a paid employee because they were looking for people to pay to do the station work and stuff. Well, they're the type of station where change is a scary thing, where they ain't a little mention of change and they just like freak out and everything. So they want people to volunteer, but I volunteered over there for a long time, and I felt like in my later days of volunteering, I just I wasn't getting nowhere. I was doing late night. They put me on the like late night hours during the week when nobody was listening, and I put in a lot of effort to record a show and do a show and to make it good, and yet I got no feedback,
Mhm.
nothing. And it kind of got me mad because it's just like I'm an OG over there, and
Right.
yet I get very little respect from the people that were in charge. So in January 2021, I decided, I can't do this no more. I wasn't quitting radio like or quitting the whole broadcasting thing. I just was taking a break because I was physically drained from just not getting anywhere. And I tried to have conversations with people in charge, and they didn't care. They were just like, "Hey, we're letting you volunteer on our station, so you do what we tell you to do or whatever. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. Or you'll be replaceable like anybody else."
Mhm.
So I gave it a little bit of time, and I took some time away, and then I thought about Zoom, because I used to use Skype, back in the day of doing like some interviews here and there. And I thought, Zoom is kind of fun, I mean, people are using it more and because of the pandemic and everything, people were using it a lot, and it's become so much more popular. Well, why don't I try to do some video interviews, with people, see if they may be interested. So
Right.
in 2021 and 2022, I kind of did that. I didn't do any more radio shows, but I just did my own thing, my own interview show, and I did Zoom stuff, and it was fun, and it worked out pretty well. I didn't do that many, but I did a few, and it kind of warmed my heart to know that this could be a potential idea for a future project or something. So fast track 2023, I was unemployed for a while because I worked at Walmart and lost the job over there because of some BS that was going on. So I was on unemployment, and I decided, I want to do something that's different that I've never done before. That I really commit to something because I'm ready to come back. I'm ready to be creative again, and I just didn't know if my idea was going to work. Because sometimes it has, sometimes it has. Well, in August of 2023, I decided that I was going to try to find somebody that could be my co-host, somebody that you would never expect that I would ever work with. It was a guy that I interviewed and had on my show. His name was John Lutz, aka Screaming Sam. He was known as a Screaming Sam tribute artist, like Sam Kinison.
Right.
Like he's friends with Bill Kinison, Sam's brother. I asked him if he'd be a part of the show, if he'd be like my co-host or whatever. And he didn't hesitate. He didn't want to think about it, but he didn't. It didn't take him that long to say yes, because he trusted me because he remembered when I interviewed him, 3 different times, and he never forgot about that. He thought that was pretty cool that I'd still be interested and wanted to do something with him because he lives all the way in Ohio. I live in Minnesota. You
Okay.
know, so it's a weird world, that you mash up together, especially with him because he's done all types of stuff, on his own, for Sam Kinison tribute, and then he did a Sam Kinison like a tribute show, like that was popular in Florida. It was one of the first podcasts to come out for video before they even called it podcasts and everything.
Mhm.
So yeah, and
Does he
then
look like
so
Sam Kinison?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the video and stuff, well, see the logo that we use right now. It's
Okay.
our current Renegade Radio logo. We're using some holiday themes right now, but this is our actual original logo anyway. I did this through AI, and then I had a friend create the title. But the logo is like a Noir style or Noir style of Sam Kinison, of
Okay.
Screaming Sam. I mean, you can tell if I move out of the way a little bit that looks just like Sam Kinison kind of,
Okay. The people will
Oh,
see it when the YouTube thing comes out
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's when
yeah.
the artwork will be.
My friend John Lutz looks exactly like this guy. So it's kind of a dedication to him, kind of like, because he's
Okay.
my co-host. He helped me get it started. So anyway, so August 2023, we get started and we do our first few shows, and we didn't know what was going to happen. It's just like he's new to the game because he hasn't done it in a long time. I have done this before, but never like a podcast. I've always just done radio shows. It's
Right.
almost practically the same thing, except you do it from your own house or whatever. So it's a little bit
Right.
different. So yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for him to say yes, I don't. I mean, I probably would have still done it anyway, but I don't know how successful it would have been in the beginning. I mean, now we're next week we're ending our season 3 on the show. We'll have our 20th episode of the 3rd season already, and then we're taking a month off for the holidays, and then come back in January for season 4. And I got a nice crew. I got a big crew of people since that time. So it's pretty
So,
amazing.
so what do you think helped grow your show?
I think just really like free form,
Uh-huh.
like just being open to any idea. Don't not saying no to stuff. Being more of a yes guy. Showing respect to my coworkers, but people who are my online friends who I've interviewed and who all had histories with and whatever. Uh, just being somebody that's open to things, you know.
Sure.
Because I feel like the real true measure of success, like financially, we haven't gotten that far yet. But as far as the actual success of the program, it's just being there for your people, because these people are willing to spend time with you when they really don't have to. Everybody could just tell me to f off and we're done, but they don't, because they know that they like being a part of this, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Our biggest coup is the guests, the interviews mostly, and it's our banter too. But a lot of people look forward to the guests, even the crew does, because they never know. Because mostly I'm the one that gets the guests together. I ask them sometimes to help, if I have a dry spell, but now thanks to my friend Steven, who even told me who hooked me up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Steve
he
Joyner, by the way. We can
yeah.
say his name. It's all right.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
we
He's a
plug him
great
as often as we can.
He's a great guy. He's helped me get a lot of people. I'm sure he's helped you too. I'm sure there's a whole
Sure.
big community that's going on. And I'm still trying to figure out why he wants to help me. But because I'm not anybody famous or anybody whatever, but it's just like, I think he just liked the style of what I was doing. And he
Mhm.
and he finally, realized that I was a good idea. I was a good pick to try to do something again, because he was trying to get a hold of me a couple of years ago, and we were gonna worked together before I did Renegade Radio, but it was a different time then. I wasn't really doing a weekly show. I was still kind of creatively dry at the time, and I was working at a job at the time, so this wasn't even an idea yet.
Right.
But now that it has been, I mean, I enjoy it. I really enjoy doing the show. We've had some really good guests on, from musicians to actors, actresses, singers, songwriters, comedians, authors. I mean, you name it. I mean, and we're only getting started. But
Mhm.
we've had over 70 guests, or no, well over 80 guests at least total, or more, since the show started. So,
Do you have any favorite guests? Any favorite moments?
I would probably say as we started breaking the ice in season 1, season 2, some of the early guests that we had on, like we had on Barry Clark Webb, who was a female comedian out of Florida. You
Mhm.
know, she's a lesbian comedian, but she's very funny. And she looks like a combination of Ron White meets Sam Kinison.
Okay.
That was fun. We had Bill Kinnison on a couple times. That's Sam's real life brother, who was actually like his manager and all that stuff. We've had on the Sam Morrison band out of California. We've had Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, in 1981, and was Kurt Russell's stunt double. His son Lance and I are good friends because we know each other for about 18 years, and I've interviewed him a bunch of times. He's one of my crew members now. He
Okay.
got so excited about being a part of about doing interviews and stuff, that he wanted to be part of the show, and now he joins me almost every week. And he lives out in Washington, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's just like who's who. I mean, some guests are bigger than others, some are smaller than others, but you know what? They all have a purpose. And as
Sure.
far as like moments and whatever, I don't know. I mean, just every week is a fun moment. I think I really haven't really compiled yet what the best moment has been yet because
Mhm.
you know, I don't think it's happened yet.
Okay, well, obviously it sounds like you're having fun, and then things are really kind of gelling, obviously, from where you were a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's just that, see, you have to understand, Jim, that where I live, when it comes to opportunity, it's very little around here.
Mhm.
And the only reason why I choose to stay around here in my home area is because my family's here, and I have a very few friends anymore. But if it wasn't for my family and the few friends that I had, I would probably have left a long time ago and went
Mhm.
somewhere else. But it's just that. Um, I got sick and tired of being told no. So I pretty much said that this show is kind of like a personal middle finger to all those people that said I could never do this for a living. I could never hang with these type of people, or I could never, host something like this, or even not even just a podcast, but just like just in general. I've done over 600 interviews in my life, and I know that doesn't sound like much since 2006, because a lot of people have done a lot more than that. But to me, I don't think it matters about how many you've done. Just the fact that you keep doing it, and
Right.
and I've always done it for fun. So I've never been paid for an interview. I've had to pay for interviews to do interviews, but I've never been paid to do an interview. But hey, it is what it is. Sometimes you just to get what you want, you got to do what you got to do. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's just that, people should look at this, and especially around my area, where we are starting to get a little bit of notoriety. It's just that people around here are fickle, and when it comes to, because I live in like a farm community, it's mostly
Okay.
farm people, you know, but I consider myself a city guy, and that's what I've always considered myself. And I don't consider myself, like even I don't even call myself a local because I feel like my place in this area is more. I'm here to become a public figure because of my entertainment, not because I like the title of that. It's just or I have an ego or anything like that. It's just that that's what they call people that are doing things in public, and I'm not ashamed to put myself out there. You
Right.
know. So it's fun. I enjoy every moment of it, and when people actually talk to me about the show and stuff, and I don't bring it up myself, that makes me feel pretty good that somebody's paying attention.
Yeah. The funny thing about doing podcasts, and you don't really think of it when you're doing it, I think most people don't, is that years after you're done, you don't realize that you've actually left this audio legacy for people, and they're going to do with it what they're going to do with it. But you went that far and created something that suited you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's kind of what I like about just this idea of social media and stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
if it wasn't for the internet, I don't think I would have been able to have any opportunity because it's all thanks to the social media and the internet that I even had a chance to do any of this stuff. It wasn't because of learning about radio and stuff, because I could have learned about radio without the internet. It would have been okay. But I'm glad that I came around when technology was starting to change and become more of a positive than a negative.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's like when I started doing uh, broadcasting school in 2002, they were slowly just getting away from the decks and the old way of doing commercials. They were importing stuff on a computer, all their songs and all their logs and everything. Similar to when I worked at Black Hills Fox in Rapid City, I was a master controller over there. Everything was on the computer, so it wasn't as hard to do everything as it would have been had because even at the TV station, people would tell me that have been there a long time. They said how things used to be, how you had to get spliced commercials and stuff for the TV stuff too, and be more prepared for everything.
Mhm.
You got more of a workout, just trying to keep the stuff on the air than just now where all you gotta do is like make a list or whatever and set it and forget it until it's time to change it again or update it again. So Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say that I've had both radio and TV experience because you won't find too many people who have done both.
Right.
They either do one or the other. So I am proud to say that no matter what, I have had a paying broadcasting job in my life. It just I feel like it went kind of fast. It was 3 years, and it's just like, and the only reason why it ended was because the station that I was working for, Black Hills Fox, decided to Great Media decided to buy Coda territory and combine the stations, and I thought my job was saved, and it turned out that I was just a lie because they hired all the people from their end that didn't know me from anything and wouldn't work with me on really anything, and eventually fired me. So yeah, and I had no other choice but to I tried to find something else that could have matched to it, and nothing else was happening, and so I eventually came back to Minnesota and been here ever since 2018 anyway.
Okay. Now I'm curious. In addition to doing your show, if you have time to listen to other shows, what type of stuff do you like to listen to, Frankie?
Uh, well, let's see. I mean, I do listen to other shows. One of my co-crew members, Mama T, as we call her, her real name Tanya Nelson. She's out from Macintosh. She has a show called The Buzz with Mama T, and she does like a lot of Minnesota artists because of her ex-boyfriend who passed away a few months ago was a well-known musician, blues musician in our area. So I listen to her show. I've been on her show before, and now she kind of does it by herself, But she just started that show. I listen to a few podcasts here and there, like a lot of comedy stuff. Most of the time I'm just listening to I like to listen to music a lot, you know. But if somebody's doing a podcast about films and stuff, I'll try to listen. Like some YouTubers like to do podcasts, that are popular and everything. I watch. This is really a podcast, but I watch Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link, from California. They do a daily morning show, which is cool. And they've been on for a long time. It's like a podcast kind of, but it's more video form. You
Mhm.
know, and you're always learning about things and stuff. And I mean, that's where I take inspiration from all that stuff,
Sure.
from everything that I watch. So, yeah, I don't, I, it's very exciting, to be able to do that. But yeah, there's hundreds of podcasts, thousands of podcasts, and I'm just like, and too, Jim, there's a lot of different Renegade radios out there. The only reason why I call my show Renegade Radio, and I'm kind of changing the name to call it Franky Slawson's Renegade Radio, just so people know where to find it.
Right.
Uh, there's a friend of mine who passed away almost 10 years ago here next year. His name was Ron Fox, and he was a shock jock out of Arizona. And he used to do stuff, he used to do a show either called The Renegades or something Renegade related, where he and his sidekick would do like morning radio, and they'd prank call people, and stuff, and have a good time and bust people. It was kind of like a shock jock format. And so I thought, well, Renegade Radio would be a great title in his honor, like a tribute. So that's where that comes from. But then I realized that there was hundreds and thousands of freaking, there's a lot of different Renegade radios, and they're all different.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of changed the title to Franky Slawson's Renegade Radio, just so people know where to look for it. And that
Well,
started here earlier this month. So it doesn't say it on this image here, but I sent you an updated poster anyway that you can
okay.
use. But anyway, so yeah.
Well, as long as you're promoting your show as Frankie Slawson's Renegade Radio, we do have a portion of the show in it. It's called Shameless Self Promotion. So while I got you on a roll here, Frankie, why don't you take it home?
Well, I mean, you can find me at facebook.com/Franky Slawson. On Facebook, you can find all my podcast stuff, like all the episodes and plus all the videos that I've done over the course of time. YouTube.com /@ Franky Slawson Productions, and I recommend going to the YouTube channel because there's a lot of good stuff there. It's not just interviews, it's vlogs, it's all types of things.
Mhm.
Pretty much my entire archive is almost on the YouTube page from
Okay.
the time that I first started. So, Yeah, so that's self promotion, I think.
I would say you passed that test, sir.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on your show. Really.
Hey, his name is Franky Slawson of Franky Slawson's Renegade Radio. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate you, Jim. Thanks for having me on.